if I woke up tomorrow and I was all black, just like if I woke up tomorrow and I was all white, I still would probably have an identity crisis. Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today is going to be the first of a few episodes just getting into like who I am, my vitiligo, all that good stuff. And we have a special guest today. This is my mom. Her name is Loretta. Everybody call her Mrs. Loretta. But yeah, so this video is going to be about when I first found out that I had vitiligo. We're going to get what was going through my head at 10 years old and what was going through her head being about, it don't matter what age she was, but we're just gonna like talk about like our experiences when we found out what was going on and like how we were accepting it, like what our mindsets were at that time. Okay, so to start off, I'm gonna talk about how we discovered it, and then my mom's gonna give like what was going on through her mind, and then we'll get into like my actual feelings and emotions later. But so I was diagnosed with vitiligo at 10 years old. My skin disease is called vitiligo. I will put the pronunciation right here. And I already have another video that's going up about like what it is and everything, so that's for another video. But I was diagnosed at 10 years old, and so how I came to find out about it, I was staying at my grandmother's house. I had just got out the shower. She was like putting lotion on my back or combing my hair. She was doing something, and she was like, oh, like, did one of your sisters burn you in the back of your neck when they was doing your hair? And I was like, no. And she was like, well, it looks like you got burned back here. So she had like a big hand mirror, and I looked, and at the time it wasn't bright white or anything, but it was just like, I would say like there was little patches that were lighter than my brown skin. I would say they were a little light skin, maybe like her complexion compared to like this complexion. So I think she called my mom. I don't remember what else happened that night. I just remember that reaction. So I think she called my mom. She informed my mom about something going on. And then that's kind of when the whole process of trying to figure out what was going on started. I do remember at the time I was in 4th grade, and I remember this boy at school was calling me burnt brownie. I had no idea what he was talking about because I never saw the back of my neck. But once all this stuff happened, I realized that that's why he was calling me that. But so yeah, that's just the premise of like how this all started. So I'm gonna pass it to my mom and let her tell like her side of the story of what happened after that.
Well, we when we started noticing that her skin was changing, we took her to her primary care physician, and he told us that we needed to see a dermatologist. So we had to wait a while. During the course of waiting a month or so, the spot on the back of her neck was getting larger and getting lighter each time. When the dermatologist came in to look at it, they came right in, you know, me and her dad was there, and they walked in and just stood there, and they asked to see, you know, what our concerns were. And they was like, oh, that's vitiligo. It's nothing you can do about it. She's gonna deal with this for the rest of her life, and just turned around and walked out. I was very shocked because it was like, I don't get any more information than that. How did this come about? She was so abrupt, which Amber heard what she said, and I didn't like that part either. I felt like if that was something that was going to happen to her, she could at least talk to the parents about it, and then we can figure out a way to explain to our 10-year-old that this is something that's going to be probably profound on her body. We went to other dermatologists, and we got the same kind of reaction. So I had to go do my own searching about it. I went to the library and read medical books and did things like that, and just to get some kind of knowledge and understand, you know, where it could have come from or how it could have come. I didn't get too much knowledge because at that time people didn't understand about it at all, period. So it wasn't that much written about it. It was just that this is what it is, and that's just what it is. They don't know any more than that. They see it in a lot of people. You don't have to be a African American, it can attack anybody. So it looks different on everybody, but it's something that just happens. So after that, I got such negative reaction from the doctors. I was so devastated about the diagnosis that I couldn't even say the word vitiligo. Yeah, I would just say this things that's on her. I would never actually say the word really what it was. She knew more about using the word than I did. In my mind, if I said the word, it made it real. It was real already, but I just couldn't say it. I was just too hurt and devastated. And if you know anybody that had a bad diagnosis or a diagnosis that you got to be stuck with for a long time, it's kind of hard for you to accept that word. So I knew that I had to accept it, but it was very hard for me. So I had a friend. He said, look, you got to stop this. Michael Jackson has the same disease. He has way more money than you. And if he hasn't found out or cured it or got anything to help it, what are you going to do? What what can you do? Because he had more money. He had the best physicians. And I'm like, okay. I had to sit down and take a deep breath and say, okay, I need to stop searching. I need to figure out enough to give her information when she comes to me, talk to me about it, and be able to settle myself to what am I going to say to her? How am I going to let her know, regardless of how she looks and what's on her skin, that she's still beautiful? What am I going to say? How am I going to teach her? How am I going to counteract burnt brownie or all the other names that people will call her? What am I going to say? People still to this day say negative things about her skin. How am I going to make her feel good about who she is and her life and what she was put in this world to do and put in this world to be? How can I counteract that? And that was just my biggest thing, is being able to give her that confidence to be able to stand up and look people in the face and say, I'm me. This is who I am. Yes, my skin is 2 different colors, but I'm Amber. And I had to figure out a way to be able to do that. I could not say vitiligo no more. I had to be able to say it and be able to fight. I had to be able to fight. I had to fight for her, and I had to fight for myself so that I could teach her. I did a lot of praying. I went to God a lot, and I got a lot of answers. And with that, I grew stronger. And when she came to me to ask me things and talk about what's happening, I was able to give her answers, and I was able to help her with her confidence. I wanted to see the beauty in herself. A lot of people tried to get her to wear makeup to cover up the spots, and she was just 10. We did go buy makeup because she said, Mom, I want to cover it up. And I said, okay, if that's something you want to do, then we'll try it. So we tried to get regular makeup. We went to, department stores and got her makeup and stuff like that, and to teach her how to put it on. And she would have to put this makeup on every morning when she went out to go to school. At that time, I don't think they had color palettes for her skin tone at that time.
No.
And it did not look natural. It looked very piled on and fake. They tried her with theatrical makeup. stuff that they use to cover up tattoos and things like that. And that's some thick, heavy makeup that they wanted to put on a 10-year-old. And, and it was like, oh, well, you just teach her how to apply it and she can put this on and no one would ever know. And I'm like, oh, this is a lot.
So how did you talk to the twins and my daddy and my granny? Like, what did you do to get them on board with it?
I had to get family members, her dad, her grandma, people was in our close circle. I explained to them, what was going on with her skin. Everybody was concerned. Everybody wanted to know, how it was and how did it happen. We had no answers. We didn't know. And then you got people saying, well, we don't have this in our family. It must came from your side. Well, we don't have it in our family. We both are two different families and we all is experiencing this at the same time. Neither one of us has ever seen it before. So it was like people trying to blame one family genetics over another. And once they got through all that, then they started to try to really realize that this is a young little girl. She's 10 years old. This is when she needs to start to find herself as a young little girl and meet friends and liking boys. And we had to all pull together to be able to let her see that we see you. We don't see just the spots on your face. We see who you are before the spots, and the spots doesn't make a difference because in our eyes you still who you are. And so family members all gathered together to help her through it. When my family members, we let them know that her body was changing, things was changing, and they didn't seem to have no reaction when they saw her for the first time. Only thing they did would come up and ask me, how is she doing? How is she handling it? Is she okay? And from what they can see at that time, she was doing pretty good. But everybody was just concerned with how she was handling it. Nobody in the family really teased her or made any snide remarks or anything like that. So we pulled together as a whole in the family because I thought that was the best thing to do, was everybody be together. And we had to be together for her so that she can have that confidence and that freedom to be able to come to us. If she couldn't come to me, she can go to her dad. If she couldn't go to her dad, she can go to her grandmother. And then she has sisters, and she can go to them and talk to them about how she feels, and they can give her the encouragement to do what she needs to do. But everybody pulled together as a whole, and it made us very close when it came to that. Even friends of the family, they were very positive and very positive with the situation. Nobody stared, but when we went out, that we noticed that there was a lot of staring. People come up and say, what happened to you? Were you in a fire? Or, that was the hardest thing for me, is looking at people that didn't know anything about it, how they stared, and they did not try not to stare. They full on stared. They went and grabbed other people to come look. It was just crazy how people was reacting. And she would go and say, are you looking at my skin? Do you want to know about, do you want to know what this is? She would ask people that, and I thought, wow, I don't think I would have done that. I think I would have put my middle finger up or, gave him some nasty, rude look. But she went up and asked them, hey, you want to know what's going on? I can tell you what's going on.
As I got older, I definitely got ruder depending on the situation, because I'm just like, once you get older and you realize, okay, this is a grown person staring at me, they know not to stare. Like, I get if someone looks different, you know, you look, but you might want to do it inconspicuously. But if I'm staring at you and you're staring at me, we're both just like, that's weird, it's awkward. So like, depending on, even to this day, depending on my mood, if I'm in a good mood, I'll just be like, you know, like, come on now, you've been staring at me a little too long, let's move on. But if I'm in a bad mood, and depending on who the person is, I might be like, you do know it's rude to stare, right? Because at the end of the day, like, I'm not a circus animal, so you're just not gonna, I'm not gonna allow you just to like treat me like I'm a circus animal. I'm not just gonna allow you to stare. But usually, like, if I'm in a place where it's appropriate and a child is staring at me, you know, if, like I said, if it's appropriate, I might be like, hey, like, do you want to ask me a question, like, you know? And then usually if the child is, you know, of talk, this is always if a child is of talking age, you know, then they'll say yes. And once I make it real plain, I say, I have vitiligo, it's a skin disease. And they go, oh, and they're done. Because I mean, their little mind probably can't comprehend it, and I'm not finna sit here and explain to a 3-year-old what vitiligo is, especially if it's a stranger's kid. But most of the time, you know, I've kept that going on. I remember when I was in 8th grade, I was friends with this girl, and she had a younger sister, and we were at like a school open house or something, and her sister was just staring at me. We're all like in a group. Her mom was there. She was just staring, and I was just like, you know, I said her name. I was like, hey, so-and-so. I'm like, you know, do you want to ask about my skin? And she was like, yeah. You know, she's like, okay, I got the opportunity to ask some questions now. So, you know, I would much rather anybody to come up and ask a respectful question than to just blatantly assume whatever is going on with me, or of course someone just to blurt something out that's like really rude or disrespectful. You know what I mean? But yeah, I remember people when I was first having vitiligo, whether it be just random strangers or other people that have vitiligo, just taking it upon themselves to walk up to me. And sometimes it was decent advice, like, oh, like, you know, you can regain color, you know, add more leafy greens to your diet. You know, I think maybe we found out through people coming up to us that it might be autoimmune, and that diet can change, that, you know, can change it. I think because a lot of people kept coming up to me talking about like dark leafy greens and vitamin D and all that stuff, you know. So we really learned that information in the streets. But there were some people that came up to us that had vitiligo. Even to this day, sometimes people with vitiligo will come up to me and be like, well, you know, you're gonna be all white one day, or like, oh, it's never gonna change, because, you know, they have a very negative outlook on it. Like, I remember this was only 2 years ago. I used to have a kiosk up at the mall, and this lady comes up to me, and she was completely white, and she was just like, yeah, honey, like, you know, by the time you get my age, you'll be completely white. You know, stress makes it worse. I got so stressed out in my first marriage, and and I turned all white. And like, the thing is, I know she's telling the truth, because I mean, I haven't gotten into this on any of my social media pages, but I was recently in a very bad relationship, and during the time where things got really bad in the relationship, I did lose a lot of color. So I understand that, but at the same time, like, that's just not something you walk up to someone unsolicited and say, because it's just like, okay, that's like if you had cancer and you got a bald head, and someone else is walking with cancer with a bald head, and they walk up to you and say, you know what, I got cancer too, and they just told me I got 2 weeks to live, so you probably next. Like, don't nobody want to hear that. So, you know, people just say really rude things, you know, but I've learned how to deal with it over the years. I feel like I've always handled myself pretty well when it comes to someone talking about me or trying to bully me or whatever. And that just comes from, you know, the family that I come from, and to my side of when I found out I had vitiligo. So, like I said, I don't really remember what happened after grandmama called my mom. I know that the vitiligo started on the back of my neck, and it slowly progressed to other areas. I don't know what area it hit next. I just remember when it started to affect my face. So when I got diagnosed, I was in 4th grade, probably middle of school year or something like that. And then by the time I got to 5th grade, I think around the first picture day that came around, I'm gonna insert the picture somewhere on here as we found the picture, but it had started to grow on my face. I think maybe it kind of started like maybe here or here. It was starting in like little areas, and again, you'll see with the picture right here.
At that time, she already had a spot in her head, which actually turned her hair white. The spot made her hair be gray.
Yeah, so I had a gray patch in the back of my head for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't have it anymore. I don't know, I guess I outgrew it, or I don't know how it changed or why it changed. I just know, I think it changed sometime in college, because I remember getting my hair done. Every time I would get my hair done, someone would always have to point out, oh, you have a patch of gray hair. Like, girl, don't you think I know that? But by the time I got to college, I don't know, like, I don't know, it stopped growing there. So I don't have any gray hair in my head. And I just realized, I'm getting all off topic here, but I just realized the other day, I was going through like old photos. I often take pictures of my skin to see like how it changes. And I think last year around this time, I had started to get gray hair again at the nape of my neck. Like the back of my head was turning white, but that's not there anymore. And I know I did get my hair dyed. I did get, maybe that's what happened. No, because the roots,
new growth.
yeah, because the roots are still black. So again, hey, I don't know. I think just when my skin starts to repigment, I guess the hair repigments as well. Because I mean, the whole reason that we have brown, black hair or red hair or whatever is because there's pigment in the hair. I don't know if y'all knew that, but the hair is pigmented. I guess when my skin comes back, the hair color comes back as well. But getting back to my reaction to having vitiligo, I remember when things started to change, and I have this memory at first, she forgot to mention this, but at first when we didn't know, when we were waiting to see what it was, we all thought, well, I didn't really think, but everybody, all the adults thought that I was having an allergic reaction to chlorine because I was going swimming all the time. I had been taking swimming lessons, and then me and my friends were going up to the Y. We were swimming all the time, so they had told me like I couldn't go back to the pool, and like that pissed me off because
I was like, she not going back to that dirty pool. She got a big old white spot. We don't know what this is. We don't know what they put in the water.
And me, I'm over here like
at the Y. We don't know.
I'm over here like, man, I ain't got no. This ain't happening because of the pool. I said, me being 10, I'm like, this ain't happening because of the pool. And I remember with my best friend and like her best friend, we was all like used to hang out and stuff. And I remember being in like her friend's room. I was like on the floor. One was on the bed, one was sitting at like the desk, and you know, just like little girls, you know, talk or whatever. They was like, so like, what's going on? Like, why can't you go to the pool no more? I was like, man, I don't know, y'all. They talking about this little patch is because of the pool. And they was like, well, you don't think it's because of the pool? I'm like, right, because if it was because of the pool, y'all would be jacked up too. And I was like, I don't know, y'all. I'm like, I don't know. They was like, well, what are you gonna do? I was like, I don't know. All I know is I can't go to the pool no more. So thankfully, my friends did not have a negative reaction. I think at the time I had maybe like 2 or 3 like, you know, little best friends, and like they didn't treat me different like at all, you know. I think they just asked like anybody else asked, was like, what's going on, and I didn't have any answers for them, but they didn't treat me different. So that really helped, you know, to keep my confidence, so that like I didn't feel isolated or anything like that. So I'm glad that, you know, God blessed me with some 10-year-olds that had some sense, because that could be devastating for your friends not to want to be your friend anymore. Yeah. And then also, you know, I don't really remember the emotions I was going through. I don't remember if I was worried or scared before my appointment, because again, I couldn't really see it in the mirror, and at this time it was just on my neck, so it wasn't alarming. When I went to the dermatologist, I remember that first, I don't know if it was the first appointment because we went to so many, but the one that I remember we walked in, the room was dark, it was weird looking. We went in there, we sat down, like she said, we was in there very short amount of time. They had a little pamphlet. They was like, here you go, it's vitiligo, that's it. And like the pictures was, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, it was ugly. Sorry to the people who posed for them photos, but it was like they had them in a dark room with a big old flash. It just looked, I mean, like they just picked anybody to take them pictures. Like it looked bad. Like, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, ew, like this is what I'm gonna look like. And then also the doctor had the audacity to be like, oh, it's the disease that Michael Jackson has. And being 10 years old, whatever freaking year that was, I don't even think it was like heavily publicly known that Michael Jackson had vitiligo. I think a lot of people just thought he wanted to be white and he bleached his skin, because you really can't find.
A lot of people did think that.
I don't even think if you Google it, you really can't find no pictures of him having spots like this. So in my mind, I was 10. I had only known for real the white Michael Jackson. I knew one day he was black, the next day he was white. I didn't see no in between. So you telling me that at 10, I'm thinking, oh, I'm finna wake up tomorrow and be white. Like, no. So like that's when I kind of freaked out a little bit, because I'm like, I'm finna be white tomorrow. I don't remember how I figured out that like it wouldn't happen like that, but eventually like I figured out it wouldn't happen like that.
And I think that kind of brought on stress. So then
yeah,
it started, her face really started to change rapidly.
But I'm not 100% sure it was just stress, because they did give me a topical ointment to put on, and I feel like once I started using that steroid, whatever they had me using, I feel like my skin got worse, and it was supposed to like get better, and so it didn't get better, it got worse. That's when I started to get it on my face, on my hands, on my arms. So you know, by that point, like every part of my body had a little spot or something. And so, you know, the vitiligo that you see today has not been what my skin has been like, you know, over the course of this. I've had it for 17 years now. It definitely has changed. I would say, it's kind of funny, I would say kind of like right now, like how much white I have on my nose and my eyes. This is how much I had when I was probably like 12 or 13. And then sometime between, I would say 13 and probably 16, between 13 and like maybe 17, I gained a lot of color. So my nose became majority black again. I did used to have vitiligo like right here and like right here, and like that filled in over time. And I'll get into a completely different video of like how I was regaining color at that time. But I did used to go to phototherapy when I was in middle school, but I eventually stopped going to phototherapy because it was very difficult to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning again at 11 and 12 years old before school, have to get in there, take all of my clothes off, stand in this thing for 10 seconds, and then you know you're doing all of this for 10 seconds 3 days a week. It was very annoying. They had a conversation with me like, do you want to do this anymore? And I was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. So we stopped doing light treatment, and before then I had already made the decision to not wear makeup anymore. And then I was thinking, as my skin was progressing, I'm like, well, once it gets on my neck, like in the front of my neck, or once it gets on my hands or my arms, my legs, I'm like, how am I gonna cover that? I'm like, it'll look weird if my face is just covered but nothing else is. And also, even with it being on my face, I was still getting makeup on everything. Or if I'm at school and I'm trying to play kickball or whatever, like I'm sweating, I'm looking weird. It wasn't no primer and setting spray for real back then. So
no, it wasn't.
I was uncomfortable. So she said one day, I don't know, I guess we was in the bathroom and I was looking strange by the face, and she was asking me, you know, if I liked it or if this is what I wanted to do. And she said I was just standing there, and she left me alone by myself for a while, and she came back and asked me the question again, and I pretty much was like, well, I don't want to wear makeup anymore. Because I was thinking to myself, and I kind of remember the day I thought this to myself, like I was just like, I would rather just accept my skin for what it is if this is what I'm going to look like forever, because it just seemed like way too much work, and it seemed way too stressful to try to sit there and cover up my dang skin for the rest of my life, you know. And I've met many people that have way less vitiligo than me, because vitiligo is definitely under researched and it affects everyone else differently. So sometimes there's people that have one spot. Some of the people that I've met that approach me will be like, oh my gosh, I have vitiligo too, and I've been covering up my whole life. And then this literally happened to me. She had on some leggings and some tube socks. She pulled down that sock to expose a quarter size spot of vitiligo, and I said, oh, okay, you got vitiligo. Baby, look at me, you covering up a little ankle spot that you literally like could put a band-aid on and nobody would know. Me, I can't cover up nothing. Like sometimes that, I'm not gonna lie to you, that used to really burn me up. Like not you coming to me complaining about this one little baby spot you got. Like 85% of my body has vitiligo on it. Bye. Like please get over yourself. I hated that stuff when I was younger because it was so irritating. Just to talk more about people staring, that definitely caused some social anxiety for me. I was 15. I've always been antisocial. Before the vitiligo, I never really liked crowds or going into new situations. I was very like, want to be to myself. So getting vitiligo, of course, in the beginning just amplified that, because now I'm walking into a room and all eyes is on me. So whenever I would go out to a very public place, again like Six Flags, the whole day is like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And I'm 15 and I'm here with a boy that I like. I didn't feel like being gawked at and stared at. And then also like when I would be with my boyfriend or I would be with my friends, because again we're young, you know, middle school, high schoolers, they like to get rowdy. Why are you staring at my friend? Don't stare at her, blah blah blah. Like I didn't want all that attention, because I wouldn't act like that, but they would, because they'd be like, why is they staring at you? Like remember I had so much anxiety about wanting to go to Six Flags. We had got into a huge argument. I ended up going. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but for a long time I would avoid big crowds because I did not want the extra attention. Those first few years of navigating having vitiligo was definitely different. I would definitely say like she was the main person like that really helped me feel normal and to like help me to accept my skin, because like I can't remember like how all of my siblings reacted, but one sibling, she was making me take very scalding hot baths. She was like, well, I had a friend and he had some skin discoloration and he was just dirty. She would make me a bubble bath. Okay, I know that sounds nice, but she would make me a hot bubble bath and she would make me sit into the tub until all the bubbles disappeared, and she would not be shy about them bubbles. And that used to irritate me because I'm just like, I'm not dirty, I'm taking my showers. I'm like, y'all see me take showers every day, so it's not that I'm dirty. So that used to really piss me off, and that's probably why to this day I don't like sitting in the bathtub for a long period of time. I'm in and I'm out. They came to my grandmother and my father, you know, I don't know what their initial reactions were, what they was feeling and going through inside, but they wasn't covering what they was feeling. I could tell something was wrong or they was worried. Even after I accepted my skin, they were still trying to find ways to help me cover it. Like, oh, there was something going on with some damn spray skin that had came out of New York, and my dad was like, oh, there's some spray skin, I heard about it on the news, we can go to New York and get you some spray skin. And I'm looking like, how to spray skin? At a young age I'm thinking like, did they really test this out? What does that mean for me? You know, I was like, no, child, I'm not trying to.
It sounded so stupid to me.
I've
never heard such a thing, spray skin.
Yeah, I was like, And the thing is, they continued that mess up until I was in high school about the dang spray skin. I think that my dad and my grandma, they accepted my skin because I accepted it, and probably she gave them a good talking to. But sometimes I do think like, well, if I wasn't handling it well, would they fight for me to handle it well, or would they fight to try to change it, to try to cover it? You know, I don't think their initial thought was like, or it even came into their mind like, okay, well, we're gonna have to get her on board with like accepting herself type thing. I feel like that was more my mom, and I feel like throughout this whole process she was really the one drilling it in my head that like I was beautiful no matter what. When people talk about you, it's because they have something going on within themselves. So I learned that at a young age. So even when I was in school and I was getting bullied, I would always be like, okay, so what's wrong with you, to the fact that like you gotta come at me so hard to make yourself feel better, you know? And I learned that at a young age. So, okay, they sitting up talking about me, it's because you got something wrong with yourself, and just because I can't see whatever you see that's wrong with yourself don't mean that there's nothing wrong with you.
Exactly.
And so I mean, even to this day, that's how I deal with like the hate comments and the negative comments that I get online, because I'm like, okay, you calling me a cow, okay, like what does that mean? Like, what is that supposed to do? Or you calling me a Dalmatian or a zebra, or you know, that's the stuff I was getting called when I was younger. And like now being older and getting hate comments on like Instagram and TikTok or whatever, people want to say, oh, she's gaining her right. People get very racist. Oh, she's gaining her rights back. Oh, she's 50% good. She's 50% bad. Oh, the police is not going to know what to do with her. Like, when I see stuff like that, and people, you know, call me the N-word, or they get real creative and mix the little white, you know, derogatory terms with the black ones. And even when I see those type of comments, I just be like, what was y'all trying to achieve with this? Because again, what is wrong with you to the point where you want to come on my page and tear me down? There's something wrong with you. You're crazy. Like, that's all I could ever think of when someone attacks me for no reason. You're a nut. You're psychologically imbalanced. That's it. That's all. So those comments don't bother me. And I always try to tell people who get bothered by their comments, like, if you believe that it's true, then it's gonna bother you. I can't take that in. You know what I mean? I can't take it in. There was people and kids when I was younger that called me ugly, but again, I was just like, you're lying. I can't be, because that's not what I see. So it really just depends on, you know, how you
view yourself.
How you view yourself.
And that was the thing with when she was young and she was going through that mood where, should I wear makeup? I don't look like myself. And no, you're not looking like yourself. You're not being yourself. You're covering yourself up. Yourself has vitiligo, and you have to accept this part of your life. And I just felt like if she kept covering it up, it meant that she was taking in everybody else's views of herself. You just can't do that, because if you're covering it up, when you want to take it off, you're never gonna want to take it off, and you're never gonna feel like yourself with it off.
Exactly.
You're gonna always feel like yourself with it on.
Yeah.
And every night, even when we wear makeup, just eyeshadow and lipstick and stuff, we have to wash all that stuff off at night.
Yeah.
And when you go to bed at night and you walk past a mirror, you're gonna see who you really are. So you got to see who you really are, and you got to stay who you really are. Covering up the vitiligo at a young age wasn't her. That's why I left her alone a little bit in the bathroom so that she can kind of get the gist of, like, do I want to do this? I really thought that her standing in there looking at herself, and I kept asking her the question, I would never give her the answers. I wanted her to want to take it off. And once she said, I asked her, I said, do you want to take the makeup off? I said, you can just be you. You can just take the makeup off and just be Amber, just be yourself. And she stood in there for a good while. When I came back in, she said, I want to take it off. I said, great, let's take it off. Let's just be you. I could see when she took it off, it was like, and she never put it back on.
I don't ever remember crying about my vitiligo. I feel like if I had a moment where I broke down and cried about it, I never did as a kid. I feel like the first time I ever felt bad about my vitiligo probably was 2 years ago, when I lost a lot of color very rapidly, because I'm like, I've never lost color like that. You know, the last time that happened, that was when I first got vitiligo, so it had already been like over 10 years. So that was hard, because to me it changed my appearance. Like, I lost a lot of, like, my hands were not all white 2 years ago. So just seeing, I had to, you know, you laugh to keep from crying, but I would make jokes and be like, dang, if you only see my hand, you think I was a white lady, you know. So that used to, like, you know, just kind of bother me if I, like, had something on like this and I would look at my hand, I'd be like, oh, that's white, you know what I mean? Like, so that was the first time, like, I ever felt like, oh, my skin is changing and I don't look the same to myself. I didn't think I was ugly or anything like that, but I was just like, okay, Amber, because I mean, like, you know, we both believe, you know, we're Christians. So I was just thinking, like, okay, the devil is trying to drag me to a place I ain't never been. So if I get to that place where all of a sudden I'm not accepting my skin because it has changed on me, like, I don't know how to get out that space. So I really fought in my mind to be like, okay, no, like, yeah, your skin is changing, but you're gonna accept it. And I think it was a little harder to accept, and I might insert pictures, I might not. But I think it was a little harder to accept this time around because my skin changed differently. This time it slowly changed. So at first, like, if you look at me now, all the spots I have are very defined. My brown is brown, my white is white. It's very, very white, it's very, very brown. So when I started to lose more color around my mouth and in my nose, obviously, like, when you lose color, it slowly goes. So I was very patchy. So my face was patchy, my hands was patchy, my stomach was patchy. Everywhere on me that was changing was patchy. Yeah. So it made my skin look very uneven. So I was not used to seeing my skin look uneven, and that is what was bothering me. I'm just like, okay, can the white just be white already? Can the brown just be brown? I didn't like looking patchy, but I had to, that patchiness lasted for like a year before everything turned into like what you see now, like my hands and, you know, around my mouth and my nose. So it took me a while to accept that because it was changing. And, you know, that's just life. Things are going to constantly change, you know, so that was hard. And, you know, we didn't even get into it, but my mom, you know, she was diagnosed a year after I was born with Graves' disease. And when we first initially had the conversation before filming this video, you know, she was explaining to me how, you know, having that disease, Graves' disease affects your thyroid. Y'all can Google it. I'm not going to give a definition for it, but, you know, it affects your thyroid. So it affected the way she looked. It affected her weight. It affected how thick her hair was. It affected how her eyes looked. So, you know, we was talking about that, and I never knew that my mom struggled with her appearance and her confidence because I was 1 year old, so I didn't see the changes and the differences. And so when she told me her story, I realized, okay, we went through similar things, which is probably, you know, when you think of like, you know, God's plan, you know, he probably sent her through that so that when it was my time to go through my appearance changing, she'll be able to relate to me.
I was able to guide her. And she listened. That was one good thing, that she was listening. She had forgot who she was a little bit, and to learn to look at herself and love herself. And she had forgot. She had went to that place where she had forgot. But to get into with her vitiligo and me being angry about certain things with her vitiligo, wasn't that I was angry that she had it. I was just upset at people. It really, really hurted me to see her go through and had to go through to become who she was. I was just like, can they just let her live? Can they just leave her alone? Stop staring. I wanted to take up for my baby. I wanted to take up for her. And that's why, by me, only thing I could do to take up for her was teach her how to take up for herself and teach her how to love herself. Because happiness is what you make it. Nobody else out there can make you happy. You can only make yourself happy. Don't put your happiness in a friend. Oh, that's my friend. This is no. You can have a friend, yes, you can, and y'all can get along very well. But that friend does not define you.
Yeah, you can't give when you're working on your confidence, you can't find your confidence through other people because that's so dangerous. Because as soon as whoever you then put your stock into, even if that is your mother, because we all know that not every mother, you know, is there to uplift, or father, you know, whatever. It could be anybody in your life, but you know that, like, if you put your stock into that person to make you feel good, as soon as they don't like something or as soon as they're ready to tear you down, you're done. There ain't no coming back from it. Like, you're done. Your whole world is crumbling because somebody said, oh girl, I don't like those shoes, or oh babe, I don't think you look good in that dress, or oh honey, you know, I think that the way you're dressing is too provocative, or whatever the case may be. When you put your power into someone else, you can no longer be yourself. You're going to be trying to fit into someone else's mold, which is just completely unrealistic. So even in the times where my friends might tell me, oh girl, like I don't like that outfit, or oh I don't like that hairstyle, I didn't care. Now if I grow up and some years go by and I look back and be like, ooh, that was a bad decision, that's okay, because that helped me to get somewhere else. I really remember like in high school, I really loved to wear like bow headbands or like a scarf around my neck. I was jazzing myself up any way I could because I just like to be creative in that way. Or I had, you know, stripes of purple hair, pink hair. Like I always was changing my hair color. And some people said I looked crazy. There was one time, I don't know if y'all remember this trend. I don't even know what year this was. It was probably like 2010, 2011, where like girls would like put their hair in a ponytail, but they would make it look like a bow. Now I did that, but I had a sew-in, so I really had to make something shake. And I remember I remember this boy being like, girl, that is not, he was like, that don't even look good. And I was like, whatever. And I had my purple contacts in. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. And at the end of the day, it was not the best look, but I still looked good to myself.
And it was her idea. It was what she wanted to look like.
Nobody could tell me that it wasn't cute. And even when I look back at it, it wasn't that bad. So people like, it don't matter. Just do you, you know, just
trick yourself out. You wanted to be tricked out.
See, we didn't even talk about that. See, we all off
trick
track.
Yourself out.
Y'all, we filmed this video before, and then like the devil was hating, and I had filmed it in slow motion. There was no sound. I couldn't fix it. But yeah, pretty much what she told me of how I got into doing my makeup the way that I'm doing it now, and being creative with my hair and with fashion, was she told me, and I feel like maybe when you told me this, I think maybe that's when the twins graduated college, but like she told me that you had to trick it out. She was like, Amber, you got to trick out your skin. She was like, do your hair, do your makeup, da da da. And I was already a girly girl, so sliding more into like makeup and hair was really easy for me. I don't remember how and why I decided to do my makeup the way that I did. I don't remember at all. I just remember when my sister asked me randomly one day, did I have makeup on? And I said yes. And she was like, well, how do you put makeup on? And I was like, well, I would go to MAC. I would get the mini MAC concealer. I would put that around the white areas on my face. And then I would get like the MAC powder foundation and use it for the brown parts. Don't remember how that started. I
think it started because when you wanted to buy makeup, we discussed that you may have to get 2 different shades.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember
that's what we discussed, that you had to get 2 different kinds of makeup. So I think you went and decided the type of makeup that you was gonna use.
I did used to watch YouTube, so like Jackie Ina, Patricia Bright, Shirley B. Yang, and I watched how they did their makeup, and I think maybe once I'm like, okay, you know, people were still using like a couple of different shades for, you know, whatever they was doing to, you know, get their look to look right. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do that too. I think that's probably where the thought process was, because I did used to watch a lot of makeup videos, so I think that's probably like where the thought process started at. But yeah, that's just kind of how I got into makeup. And when it came to hair, my dad started me down a dark hole of being literally addicted to weave. Like weave, I don't want y'all to think I'm saying weed, but yes, hair extensions, because I did have vitiligo on the back of my neck. So when I was like 10,
he was like, cover that up.
He was like, oh, like if you want to cover it, because at the time I think I had like a short little bob or something like that, and he was like, oh well, you know, if you want to cover your neck, why don't you go get extensions like your sister? So I started getting extensions to cover the back of my neck. Now he started me down this road, but asked me, did he want to pay for it? The answer was no. So by the time I was like in 8th grade or something like that, I was like babysitting, and I would be paying for either my hair to get done, or I'd be paying for the weave or whatever, because I needed my hair done at this point. I stayed with a sew-in because I had to cover the back of my neck. And of course, by the time I was 13 and 14 and up, like I had vitiligo everywhere, but because it got so embedded in my mind that I had to cover the back of my neck. I needed that neck to be covered. I did not want it out. And it took me a long time to feel free enough to have the back of my neck out. I wouldn't wear ponytails.
I think
and like
it was college when you got your pixie cut.
Yeah, college was when I decided to free the neck. But at that point, it wasn't really about my neck anymore. It was more so that like I had developed two things. Like I had developed an insecurity about the back of my neck because my dad was like, oh, cover your neck, cover your neck. And then two, I developed an insecurity about wearing my real hair because I have naturally fine hair. So no matter how long my hair is, it's just not given full voluptuous. Like it don't look bad, but it's just not as thick as like other people with like high density hair. So of course with extensions, I was used to my hair being a certain thickness. So without it, I felt very naked. So I didn't want to have my hair out. But my freshman year in college, I saw Kiki Palmer. She had cut her hair off into a pixie. And I was like, oh, at that time, I was like, oh, I'm reinventing myself. Da, da, da. I was like on a whole different level. So I'm like, I'm getting all my hair cut off. So that's what I did. And that's when I stopped being very reliant on weave. I was able to wear my own hair out. If I wanted to do a silk press, I felt once I grew out the pixie, I had the pixie for like 5 years. So I just started like, how long has it been? It's been like 4 years since I've had a pixie cut. 4 or 5 years now that I've had a pixie cut. So I started growing out, so I was able to get like silk presses and wear ponytails, and you know, I feel comfortable now. Like if I don't have weave or a wig or braids, I could go out and wear my hair and not feel uncomfortable. So like me, you know, taking a stance of like, okay, I'm not gonna wear weave for like the next 6 years of my life, not gonna wear wigs until like I am comfortable with my hair. So that was like a whole nother thing I had to like get comfortable with, that originally started with trying to cover the back of my neck. So silly, but like, you know. But you know, for anybody watching this that has vitiligo, or that might have a young child that has vitiligo, or if you have an older child that has developed vitiligo, what you say to your children matter. How you motivate them, how you be there, how you support them really matters, because my life could be on a completely different path if my mom would have allowed whatever she was going through and how she was feeling about my skin. If she would have let that take her down, I would have turned out a completely different person, and I probably would not be confident with who I am. And I'm so sorry to the other family members in my life, but if all I had was those other family members and I didn't have my mom, I probably would not be as confident as I am today, because I don't think they would have been able to handle what I was going through, and they wouldn't have had the knowledge and the wisdom to help me to accept myself, you know. So what you say to your children really matter. And anytime I do see a parent with vitiligo, you know, I always ask if I could say something, and I just be like, you know, always motivate them, always tell them that they're beautiful. You know, like you have to combat what's going on out here in the street, because you can't protect them for what's going out in the street. But as long as you give them the tools and the armor that they need within themselves, they'll be able to handle what the world throws at them. So I'm very grateful and thankful that, you know, God blessed me with a mom that had that type of power and strength to be there for me and to wrangle everybody else around us up to act right, so that I would not feel super different and I wouldn't feel like, you know, I wasn't normal. You know, even to this day, I don't view myself as not normal. You know, that's why some things bother me with the beauty industry, with how they like to, and I also hate when people call themselves other, like people that may be disabled or might be plus size or have some other, you know, skin disease or whatever. I don't like to be called other, and I really hate it when the beauty world, they want to do a campaign, they throw us all together. It's like, we're not allowed to be with the normal models. Let's put all of y'all together. I don't like that, because at the end of the day, it's normal. If I could see, if I was the only person in the world with vitiligo, then I could say, oh, it's not normal. But there's a lot of us out here. I think 3% of the world has vitiligo. It used to be 1%. I think it's 3% now. But it's just like, we're normal, just like everybody else. My skin is just two colors. You got, that person got white skin, that person got black skin, I just got both. It's normal. These two skin colors is normal, so I'm normal. That's just how I look at it. Confidence is an uphill battle. You always have to work at it. I've had vitiligo for 17 years and I accepted it when I was very young, and recently in the last couple of years, like I explained, I got tested again and I had to re-accept the changes that my skin was going through. And I want to note that even if I woke up tomorrow and I was all black, just like if I woke up tomorrow and I was all white, I still would probably have an identity crisis, and I would have to work on accepting whichever way it went, because I'm not used to seeing myself like that. So it would be an adjustment, and I would have to learn how to do my makeup again. It would be an adjustment. And I get the comment all the time, would you rather be white, would you rather be black, you know, for our skin tone? And I don't have a preference. Okay, let's just be for real. Do I want to be all white? No, because I'm a black woman. So no, I would not prefer to be all white. But because I've had vitiligo so long, I wouldn't necessarily prefer to be all black either. I really love my skin. So I'm just like, if I stayed like this for the rest of my life, I would be completely 100% happy. I would be fine. I have vitiligo and I've already made it in my mind that it could go either way or I could stay the same. And it is what it is. But I work at my confidence every day like everybody else should. If you don't have anyone in your life, whether you have vitiligo or not, but if you're going through changes, if you don't have anyone in your life to motivate you and support you, I hope that like you are able to, you know, go to God or whoever it is that you pray to and find some solace and comfort in that, and ask that you are able to accept yourself and to bring people into your life that will help to motivate you and uplift you. And also, like, if not that, I hope that by me sharing my story and posting and just being myself authentically, I hope that I can be an ally to you. I hope that, you know, me sharing this encourages you and inspires you and motivate you to love yourself or to accept yourself, because I can't imagine not having a support system. So I'm gonna do the best I can to come on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and be a support system for those who don't have anywhere else to look for motivation and inspiration. But just know that, as our pastor always says, you are too needed to be wasted. And there is no night that is too dark that day cannot break. And that pretty much just means like you're valuable, you're beautiful,
yes,
you're worthy. And again, no matter what you're going through, no matter how dark the times get, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, and you just have to fight to get there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye.